Hello dear students, welcome to the lecture 5 of Introduction to Programming 2, as known as also Advanced Programming with C# course. So today's topic is using SQLite and Entity Framework for database operations. So what is SQLite, if you wonder?
SQLite is a small, fast, and embeddable open-source file system-based SQL database. It doesn't have a separate server component like traditional databases. Rather, it reads and writes data directly in disk files. The SQLite database is integrated with the application that accesses the database. The SQLite database file format is cross-platform and can be copied between 32-bit and 64-bit file systems. Due to the serverless architecture, developers don't need to install SQLite before using it. All SQLite transactions are fully ACID compliant. That means all queries and changes are atomic, consistent, isolated, and durable. The SQLite source code is public and is free for use for any purpose, commercial or private.
So why SQLite in C#?
Due to its lightweight structure, SQLite is heavily used in embedded software with devices such as TV, mobile phones, cameras, home electronic devices, and so forth. Most mobile and small device databases doesn't need a server component. SQLite is recommended for mobile-based applications. Reading and writing operations in SQLite database are extremely fast, almost 35% faster than any traditional databases. SQLite reduces application cost because content can be accessed and updated by using concise SQL queries instead of lengthy procedural queries. To connect SQLite, no additional database drivers or ODBC configuration are required. Developers just have to download the library and add the data file in their application.
Okay, so when do we should use SQLite? When you are developing a standalone application, what I mean is a single person will use, for example, a mobile game, and you need to save some data of the game on the phone of a person, or you are developing another application that is standalone, then SQLite is a great choice. However, this is not appropriate for servers where multiple users will access the database. Then you should use MySQL or SQL Server or Oracle and such. Okay, so for developing standalone applications, SQLite is great because you can publish your application with easiness without setup of SQL Server or MySQL Server and such. It can directly work. You see they are using SQLite even in cameras or TVs and such. You can also compose SQLite programmatically, or you can use SQLite software as well. Okay, let's compose our own SQLite. To do that, I will start with copy and pasting our lecture 4 code so we can continue on it as lecture 5. Okay, let's open our application. By the way, if you wonder what are these two, they are lecture 13 and lecture 14 from our previous semester from object-oriented programming, and I will show you entity framework after SQLite. Therefore, I have opened them. Okay, so let's rename this. It's better to rename projects. It won't rename everything, but it's still better than nothing. As you remember, we have developed class to handle our database operations. Since SQLite uses the same TSQL format, we can copy and paste this to use it SQLite. Okay, so let's add a new class to our project. Name it as CS SQLite DB. Okay. Okay, it is ready. From here, I will copy and paste everything. We need to get it here, delete this, and delete a curly bracket here. Okay, so what will be the difference? The difference will be using SQLite. Okay, for SQLite, we need to add a NuGet package to our project. Okay, SQLite. Okay, here, not this one though. What we need is this one. Okay, we need Microsoft Data SQLite Core. Microsoft Data SQLite is a lightweight add-on provider for SQLite. This package does not include copy of the native SQLite library. What is add-on-net?
Ado.NET. Ado.NET is an important part of the .NET framework. It is a specification that unifies access to relational databases, XML files, and other application data. From the programmer's point of view, it is a set of libraries and classes to work with database and other data sources. System, Data, SQLite, Core is an implementation of the Ado.NET specification for the SQLite database. It is a driver written in C# language and is available for all .NET languages.
As you see, Ado.NET is used to manipulate data in different relational databases such as SQLite, MySQL, or the database of Excel, such. So what we are going to use at this lecture is Data SQLite Core. So with Ado.NET, you can also manipulate database of Excel. If you wonder what is database of Excel, it is Microsoft Access. You can also manipulate data of Microsoft Access database with Ado.NET. It was Microsoft SQL. Okay. Oh, data. Yes. So this is coming from Microsoft Data SQL. Okay. So this is System Data SQLite, and the other one was Microsoft SQLite. What we need is, rather than Microsoft, we need System Data SQLite to be used as same as system data as we are used to. Okay, this is installed. Okay, now should be able to. Okay, now it's here. I wonder, do we need, this is coming from, okay. And now we have SQLite connection. We just need to replace this with this on this sheet. Okay. And we need this SQLite data adapter. SQLite data adapter, yes. Okay, and that as well. Okay, and this will be common, but SQLite command, yes. Here, okay, we also need to change our parameterized query object, which is here. So let's change it as well. So this will be SQLite. What was it? Okay, this will be SQLite DB type. And this will be light command. Oh, change it. Interesting. Says maybe this. Okay, SQLite command is expecting DB type. Oh, so this is still DB type. Let's see if any. Yeah. Okay, no errors is left. So what we did was simply changing SQL to SQLite. Okay, so when our application is getting first started, I will check whether our SQLite database object is existing or not. By the way, we need also another thing. Now we don't have any more server. We need to set new connection string. By the way, you can also use memory as a database, but this wouldn't be a persisting database, of course. If you use database as memory, okay, data source data.db. db is the extension. Let's call this as lecture 5 db, or yeah, 5 db. Version 3, light, version 3. How we gonna do that? We are going to write a constructor here, public static. So this is the constructor of the static class, and here, if this file does not exist, okay, if to check that, I will add using system.io. If file exists, what is the file name? So let's give the file name like this, private, okay, read only, say db file name. This also requires keyword equal to false. So equal to false, let's get like this. SQL connection create file, this file name, and I will append it to here. Okay, and also read only. Okay, so basically we will check that whether our database file exists or not, and then if not exists, we will compose it. This will be done when the first time any method, anything inside this static class is called in the application. Then we can compose our tables or whatever we want. So let's write a method to compose our tables. You will also learn that. By the way, the commands are pretty much same for SQLite and SQL Server. Okay, this is the first top of our application. So let's say compose tables of SQLite. Okay, and name and compose table. Okay, so if you wonder how do we compose a table, it is pretty easy to figure out by using our SQL Server Management Studio. So with this method, you can generate the SQL database on your production environment, for example, you have just only provided an exe file to your customer, then when the first time application is running, you can check that database exists or not. If not exists, then you can compose the database and tables. Okay, so basically I will just use right click and then there is script table as create to new query. Okay, there can be some specific things related to SQL Server, but overall it is same for SQLite as well. Okay, so this is the syntax for Microsoft SQL Server. Let's try it on SQLite. Let's add, by the way, with add character, I am making this string to be treated as a single line. This go means that
SQL Server Management Studio always inserts a go command when I create a query using the right-click script as menu. Why? What does go actually do?
okay, so it's a batch terminator. You can, however, change it to whatever you want from here. So let's see if there is another.
The go command is used to group SQL commands into batches which are sent to the server together. The commands included in the batch, that is, the set of commands since the last go command or the start of the session, must be logically consistent. For example, you can't define a variable in one batch and then use it in another since the scope of the variable is limited to the batch in which it's defined.
Okay, so it is about batching. However, I will just end the query with like this. Okay, then let's execute the command with equal to. This time we will use SQLite DB connection CS SQLite, and we will use update delete insert and our query here debugging. So from out of nothing with commands we will compose our database file, do database operations on it with indexes and such other things. So this is a great way of using structured indexed variables data in your standalone application. So there is no database file here right now and there is nothing. When I click this, I will get into this command with F11. Okay, here. Okay, so this should have been executed and let's see if we have, yeah. So SQLite is generated since the constructor is run. Our database is here. Let's continue. Okay, connection open is success. Nice. So our connection open is successful. Then we will execute non-query. Okay, we have an exception. So the format was probably incorrect. See, okay, it says that SQL logic error near on syntax error. Okay, so we have a syntax error. Let's see our. Okay, so it seems like this primary key on primary has a problem. Okay, so what else now we can do? Okay, so there is DB browser for SQLite. I think we can use this. Okay, so this is official home DB for SQLite. There is GitHub repository. So this is, yeah, this is open source. I think we can use this. And from here, let's see if they have releases. There's nightly builds. Okay, there is Windows release here. Yeah, I will just use zip no installer for 6 for Windows here. So let's just, okay, with this one we can edit our database and then perhaps we may generate the create of table command as well. See, it has that capability. Okay, there are some libraries. Okay, here the DB browser for SQLite, and from here I will just open because our DB is already generated inside our binary here. Okay, you see that it has no tables yet. Now let's create a table. So the table name, so let's copy and paste this here. Okay, you see at the bottom we now see the query command, and then I will add field 1. So the field 1 will be student ID integer not null. It will be a primary key. Oh, you see the syntax is slightly different. That is why our this query has failed. There are some syntax differences sometimes. So this one is mvar character. So it is basically text. Okay, can be null or not. No, not null. So this is not null. And this one is also not null. Yeah. Then we have student email. Okay, so edit as well. So this will be a text and not null as well. And Ismail, this is okay. There is numeric collation. Okay, there is binary collation as well. So this will be integer and it will be binary. There is no foreign case. There is no default value right now. And nickname. Let's add as well. Text not null. Let's set a default value for this. So this will be by default 0. Okay, yeah. So this was our constraint. Okay, so you see this is the syntax for our table. So I will just replace this with this syntax. Now we have problem. So okay, so the better way would be adding a text file. So I will add a new item text file. We can also add SQL file as well. Query. Anyway, let's add this text file as like this. Compose SQL light table dot SQL. Here, since I have made the extension as SQL, now it is highlighted or let's say styled by default with Visual Studio. I have saved it, then I have to copy it to, by the way, not resource, but it was being content, I believe. And it will be always copy, or let's say copy never. Then basically we will execute this one, file read, okay, read all text. Okay, now let's retry and see if our query will be successful. So this method will return integers, therefore we will get the message. All right, okay, 0, it says 0. I don't know if it failed or not. Okay, looks like it didn't fail, I believe, because I see it now here. But for to be sure, I will delete the SQLite file and restart the application. Okay, so close it. Okay, I also need to close it from here, close database. Okay, now I can delete it. Okay, and now let's start. By the way, it has shown 0 because there were no rows affected. We just simply composed a table. And now let's open database to see whether our, yeah, so our query was successful. Okay. And when I modify table, I can modify it here. When I browse table, I can see it here. So let's add some values to our light table. By the way, it is same actually. So I will just do add a method to one of my buttons here. So there is insert random source. Yeah. So here let's add records to our, okay, here we don't use the method. So I just need to get method version of this. Was here? No. Okay, so let's use it. Perhaps we have had some parameterized queries, but where was it? I am looking for it. Parameterized queries. Okay, let's convert this into a parameterized query. So to convert this into parameterized query, we need connection, and here, okay, we need parameterized query object, I believe. Give equals that query. See, I'm not sure which one is which one. Okay, there is parameter name, type of parameter, value of parameter, and here. So let's first compose parameterized query here, and we will add objects to our parameterized query, which will take parameter name. So parameter name will be equal to student ID. Okay. And then it will have type of parameter, which will be db type integer. There is db type and there is SQL db type. SQL parameter. Okay, I think we need to use this one. And then we need the value, of course. So the value will be like this. Okay, here value of the parameter, and this will be added into new query object. Okay, now I have added into my list. Now I can compose other ones. If I change values of this in the following code, then it wouldn't be new objects, because since this is a, let's say, reference type. Okay, so if I change the values here, for example, like this, equal to, let's say, something like this. Okay, re-add something like this, all of them would be same. Okay, because since this is reference type, when you add it like this, you only adding its reference. Therefore, this is not the appropriate way. However, what we can do is we can simply do it like this. So it will be a new instance of this object. Therefore, they will have different references. We will see more about references in the next semesters at object-oriented programming. Okay, so the second parameter is student name. Let's also edit, by the way, this will be db type string. Yeah, the value will be equal to here. Okay, now the call next thing, and then we are going to define our next value will be first. Oh, same thing. This will be student email, and let's add this one as well. By the way, after each new comment, I have to edit to here because the previous reference is getting lost when I compose a new instance of this object, this class. And then we have ismail. So the ismail is binary type. Therefore, I need to set it as binary, and this random next like this. It is either 0 or 1. Okay, let's edit 2. And our final object will be nickname. I think the nickname is, yeah, it's here. So it is a little bit different. Here, edit, and we have to change the parameter name, of course, nickname. Okay, then we will set the remaining parameters of our new query, which are query itself. So it will be insert into, so our table name is TBS students, and then we can set column names, or we can provide exactly same as the column name count. So we can directly edit something like this: add values equal to add student ID. By the way, if you use this approach, you have to provide exactly same number of columns that table has. Okay, so you can't just leave default values with this approach. Student email is mail, nickname. Okay, this is the query, and then okay, CS, right? Okay, then I'll parameterize the query update, insert the query object here. And that's it. Now it should work. So let's run the application and see. Okay, I will put a breakpoint here to test it, not this one. And here, connection is open, command generated, command text here, and then we add the parameter object here, and when we execute, oh, we have an error. So what could be the enable cast object system into system byte? So why does it see it as a byte? This is integer, but which object has the problem? I wonder that. Okay, we can't see which object has the problem. So maybe we don't provide the value here. Let me check it. Parameter name, parameter type, parameter, SQLite parameter. So let's try SQLite parameter. Okay, new SQLite parameter. So it has so many of DB type, parameter name, size, DB type, object value, parameter type, parameter name. Okay, so let's just provide parameter names and parameter value. I won't provide the parameter type in this case because it seems like we are having some problem with the parameter types. On this case, I will just add this. So let's try this way. So let's put a breakpoint here and see if it is working or not. So basically, I didn't provide the parameter type. Therefore, the .NET Framework should automatically handle it. Let's try it. Continue. Okay, I think it has worked. So let's select the data in our, yeah, now it is working. You see, we didn't do anything. Our code is perfectly working fine. So now we can continue. It's removing breakpoints. And now it is adding both our, you see, whenever I refresh it, it is getting increases. See, modify table. Okay, there are constraints, primary key. There is, okay, we can add unique and we can add check. And I wonder if we can define index on this. So this is the format. Auto increment, yeah. We don't need it yet. We don't need unique default value check foreign key. Okay, anyway, now it is working. Now you have the idea of how to use a local database. So if I publish this application, I can use it directly. Okay, so let's publish applications such as we are delivering our job to our employee. So I will publish this. Let's right click and publish. So when publishing, it will include the necessary DLL files as well. Okay, so the target will be a folder here. So let's publish it into somewhere else because I don't want it included in our GitHub repository. So publish lecture 5. Okay. Okay, so when I click finish, okay, now there is configuration release target runtime portable. So portable means that it will put necessary DLL files as well. Whichever the computer I put it work, but since we are using VPF, it wouldn't work on Linux. Okay, so let's check our code. Okay, here our published file, and there is runtimes. Runtimes are taking not much space. So we have, you see our SQL file, publish it. We have our DLL. We have our, you see, SQLite and client DLL. When I run the application, okay, it is started. When I click compose tables, you see database has created. When I insert random numbers, now we will see the increase in our SQLite file size. Okay, you see here, and you see sometimes there is another file getting composed and getting removed. I think it's related to inserting records. And you see these applications totally standalone and can be deployed to your employer. So if your employer has requested you to program a standalone software, then you can use SQLite if you need database in your software, and it would save you from a lot of hassle. How to insert data into SQLite, or let's say how to insert with parameterized queries. You can also do other update, delete, insert, whatever you want with using our this converted class. It is so that much easy. Nothing is different. You can use all the methods here. They should all work without much change. Maybe you may need to change this parameterized query type on update as well. Yeah, here. Here you just need to change the same, which is copy and paste here. Oh, we had something else as well. So no, not this. So this one will be copied, and okay, now I will show you how to use entity framework. Okay, and what is entity framework? So the entity framework is a little bit more harder to understand at the beginning. We are going to add a new item to our project. It is inside. Okay, I think it is not available on my project at the moment, so I need to add entity framework. So let's check our NuGet. Okay, there is Microsoft Entity Framework Core. Okay, so is a modern object database mapper for .NET. It supports LINQ queries, change tracking, updates, and scheme migrations. EFI Core works with SQL Server, Azure SQL Database, SQLite, more. MySQL, PostgreSQL, and other databases through provider plugin API. So usually it supports most of the databases. This is mapper for us to write LINQ queries. If you use Entity Framework, it also does provide you SQL injection protection. Okay, so now when I add new item, it should be here. It's not here. Okay, I found the hard way. You can't make Auto.NET entity model with an interface with .NET Core, but you can with .NET Framework. With .NET Core, you can write some commands in Package Manager console link to your DB model, but you don't have the same function as .NET Framework project that goes through. Okay, with .NET Core, we can't use the wizard. However, with this one, let's see. So this is named as EFI Core Power Tools. Okay. Yeah, it has been asked many times. So right now we are looking for a solution to use it with .NET Core rather than .NET Framework. So same answer. So this is also another option. Copying ADMX file from another project. Maybe we can use that. So let's compose a new project and copy the necessary files from there and see if it is working or not. So I will compose a temporary project. So VPF-app.NET is not supporting Entity Framework model. Therefore, I will pick VPF-app.NET framework. You see it has double click it again. So I will click create. Okay. Once this application is loaded, it should be available. Okay. So we right click and we add new item. And in data, okay, there is it.NET entity data model. entity model add. Now wizard will appear. So there is EP designer from database, empty code first or code first from database.
Entity framework is an object relational mapping, or framework that offers an automated mechanism to developers for storing and accessing the data in the database. This tutorial covers the features of Entity Framework using code-first approach. It also explains the new features introduced in Entity Framework 6.
Okay, so this is using code first approach. So if you wonder what is code first and what is model first, let me also explain you them.
Code first modeling workflow targets a database that doesn't exist and code first will create it. It can also be used if you have an empty database and then code first will add new tables too. Code first allows you to define your model using C# or VB. Net classes. Additional configuration can optionally be performed using attributes in your classes and properties or by using a Fluent API.
And what is model first approach?
Model first is great for when you're starting a new project where the database doesn't even exist yet. The model is stored in an EDMX file and can be viewed and edited in the Entity Framework Designer. In Model First, you define your model in an Entity Framework Designer, then generate SQL, which will create database schema to match your model, and then you execute the SQL to create the schema in your database. The classes that you interact with in your application are automatically generated from the EDMX file.
And then the database first approach, which I prefer to use, by the way.
The database first approach provides an alternative to the code first and model first approaches to the entity data model. It creates model codes, classes, properties, DB context, etc. from the database in the project, and those classes become the link between the database and controller. The database first approach creates the entity framework from an existing database. We use all other functionalities, such as the model, database sync, and the code generation, in the same way we used them in the model first approach.
Okay, so we are going to use database first approach because our database is ready. Therefore, I am picking EV designer from database, and next, then I will select my database server and such. Okay, it is loading. Okay, it said it is not available. Therefore, I will generate a new connection and server name. Okay, it is retrieving list of servers right now. You can also type the server name yourself. How you are going to find server names such as this, select add server name, and this is our server name. So let's cancel it and type our server name. Windows authentication, and now databases should appear. You see they have appeared. SQL database. Okay. You see it has automatically generated connection string. Okay, so the save connection settings in the app setting config add SQL entities is up to you how you save it. Entity frameworks version 6. Okay, then you pick which features of the database to be included, and there is also model namespace, and this will be used by us to manipulate database objects. So I am picking the tables, and we don't have views or storage procedures, and then finish. Then it will generate the necessary classes and EDMX files and such for us. This provides an easiness, a security level for programmers. However, with this approach, you may not obtain the best performance. Therefore, if you are working on a performance critical software, you should stick with our raw queries. Also, it is harder to get used to entity framework at first, but of course by using it over time you can get used to it. Personally, I didn't use much. Actually, I haven't used it, entity framework, in any of my projects so far. Okay, so our EDMX is generated here with the sub elements. I wonder if we can add it to our project directly. So I will click add existing item. So when I pick all, yeah, now I can select all. Okay, these are the necessary files. Okay, they are getting added. Okay, it says that the entity framework is not available in the target framework currently specified for. Okay, for entity framework example, I will compose a new project. It's true, but this feature not available in core and might not answer questions, but core offers reverse engineering command line. Okay, so with reverse engineering command line it's possible. So let's try this EV core power tool. We have already downloaded it. The software is working. Okay. It says requires the GML editor. I will install it. Meanwhile, let's install back the Entity Framework. So let's install Entity Framework. You see it has over 100 million downloads. Okay, so it's installing the necessary things. Okay, after I have closed Visual Studio instances, the installation has been completed. Now, when we open our project, it should be available. We are going through all these hardship to use Entity Framework on .NET Core application. It is already available in .NET Framework application. Okay, so now we have EP Core Power Tools option here. I click reverse engineer. Okay, now I will add a database from, okay, you see the same window appeared. Let's copy and paste this. Okay, school here. Okay, it use EP Core 5. Okay, nice. So let's click OK. Okay, on here it says loading database objects. Okay, the tables appeared. TBR students. It says this table has no primary key. Yes, we haven't defined a primary key yet. Okay, the context name. Okay, school context name space lecture 3. And type path subs names DB context. Okay, I will leave this pluralized or singular generate object names. Okay, it is about naming. So I won't touch this. Okay, I won't check these check marks. Okay, just leave everything by default and click OK. Okay, so school context is added to our project. Let's see where it is. Okay, by the way, it is installing EP Core Provider package from NuGet, I believe, right now. As you can see at the left bottom, it has added Microsoft Entity Framework Core and Microsoft Entity Framework Core metadata libraries into this school context.cs school context class file. You see it has public partial class school context which inherits DB context. By the way, we will see about this inheritance and other things in the next semester in object-oriented lecture. It has a constructor which is empty. Okay, I think it has installed. Now they should become available. Yeah, it has some options by default. Okay, so you see it has DB set, TBR students. This is our table name. It is public virtual. There is on model creating relational collation to CI. So this is the collation from our database. Say student email is Unicode false. Okay, so this is our school context and there is TBR student CS here. So this is our actual class that objects will come from, and there is TBR students. Yeah, key list table. These are all automatically generated, and there is config JSON, which you see it has put the server name, table name, and this is the database name and other things. Okay, now we can use our Entity Framework. The rest is same for both .NET or .NET Core. Okay, so let's do some things with Entity Framework. So with Entity Framework, you can manipulate objects with such easiness and save the changes. Okay, for example, I will show you. Let's add another tab to our project. Okay, so here, tab item. Okay, let's make this as the framework. Okay, here I am going to use a data grid. Should use data grid. So data grid is here taking full space. What I'm going to do is, okay, let's resize it here. Okay, so inside this data grid I will load our table. Okay, name data grid students. Okay, I will add two buttons. Okay, watch this part closely because it may be a little bit harder to understand. So this button will load data into our data grid. Load data into data grid. Okay, and name VTN load. So first let's load data with our traditional method. Okay, so DT grid students have items source which takes enumerable collection. I think we can use DB connection. Just select data set. Okay, here select all from TBR students, and here tables 0. Okay, so okay, as data view. Yeah, I remember now. Table 0 as data view. and item source. So basically this will populate all the data into our data grid, but I will just limit it to top 100 and I will order by name, or do we have anything to order them? Okay, let's order by student ID. Yes, 100 all from TBL. Students order by student ID ASCII. So I will, yes, query is working. So let's just stop application and change our query. So this is data view says creates and returns a link to enable data view object. With data view we are able to assign it as data source. So let's open our tab, load data. Yes, now you see the table is loaded into our data grid and I can even change values. However, would they will save it right now? No, it is much harder to save this data. It is still possible. We can iterate through columns and rows of this data grid and update them. However, it is much harder. So what we are going to do is, instead of our traditional way, we will use entity framework. To use our entity framework, let's define our context, school context equal to new school context, and my context dot, okay, where, you see you have to write link your queries, it will be not where but order by now pr dot student id and select top 100 take. So this will return db set. Okay, can I assign it into a data view? Let's see, it will return I orderable TBS students. Okay, so to be able to use it, then I need to make changes to my context. So if I do using, it wouldn't be work for me. So yeah, to be able to save it, I have to define it here. Let's see what does this return. I queryable TBS students. Okay, this is not what we need. Context is context TBS students will load. Okay, maybe we can take it. Okay, maybe we need to filter local binding list equal to item source. Then can we filter it where maybe or order by student ID take, yeah, let's see. Okay, so this is item source, then we will have save. So let's add a save button and see if it's working or not. If it's working, then great. This is so much saving time, by the way. Okay, so let's add a save. We can achieve this with traditional ways. You can try at home to achieve it with traditional way. However, it is much easier with entity framework object binding. And what we are going to do is simply context save changes. Yeah, that's it, right. Basically, you are writing link queue to retrieve data, update data, add, remove data. I will show you other examples as well. Okay, load. Do we have a error? Yes. So we have a problem where, let's see. So this is DB crawling. Says that, so what was the error again? No database provider has been configured for this DB context. Let's see why. We have actually set up our context on here, I believe. No, not here. School context lecture 3. Yeah. DB UI hint. Look for the error. So this will override on configuring, and I wonder when will it be called. Yeah, now it is getting called. Okay, so invoke method cannot be used to identity type TBS because it does not have a primary key. Oh, I see. Since entity framework depends on primary key when modifying collection, throwing an error, therefore I will add an identity key to TBS students just for the sake of automatic updates of entity framework. So identity keys are unique keys that no two records can have. Therefore, each record can be uniquely defined with an identity key. Okay, so I will just insert column. Here I will set it as, by the way, after I have done this, I have to recompose the classes. So let's say unique ID. I will make it as identity key. So how am I going to make it? I will set it as primary key and I will make it identification is identity. Yes. So it will automatically give keys to the existing records here. So you see they are having all different keys now. Now I have to re-update my existing classes. Okay, I think it is automatically now recognizing. Okay, and what will it do? Okay, so our code is gone. So let's back the student nice. Okay, you see now we have unique ID here and it has the key parameters. So now when we run the application, work as expected, hopefully. Okay, load data, no errors, but it is not visible. So where we have the problem. So let's just remove this part, see what happened. Okay. But we didn't load anything into local. Maybe that is the cause. Okay, now it looks empty and local. Okay, we don't have the load method. Why might be? Okay, because we have to add using system data entity. And when we add it, okay, now enumerate the query such as can we modify load? I wonder. Okay, load method. These are not we need. Okay, so yes. Okay, this is what we need. Okay, load. Yeah. Okay, and that is find. Oh, I see. So if we use find context entry block collection query. I see. So with this way we can use find collect query not where the order take load. Yes, now it is working. Okay, this is what we need exactly. And then this. Okay, now it should work. All right. You see, it is harder to grasp the details of entity framework at first, but once you get used to it, work. Oh, by the way, we have ordered by student ID, therefore it may be slower. We should have ordered by unique ID. Okay, this is taking. Yeah, SQL is working. Yeah, order by another thing. I will order by unique ID. Now it should be much faster because primary keys are already sorted. Therefore, it will take the ordering. By the way, you can also see the queries that is getting executed with profiler. So let's open a profiler. Oh, we can close this and load data. I think that is okay. Now they are loaded by sorted by unique ID, as you can see. So I will just set prime unique ID 82 to Furkan as student name. Okay, now it is not saved in the database, but when I click save and refresh the grid, it should get saved. So let's try. Interesting. It is automatically saved perhaps, but I'm not sure. So let's try load item source. So I need to refresh table. I wonder. See. After I click load, does it refresh it? Perhaps. Yeah, let's make it clear then. Set the source C. By the way, we will see that if we save it or not, but it should be saved. So how does Entity Framework do that? It's generating an automatic query. I will show you. Okay, loaded. When I click again, okay. When the item source is, oh, there is items refresh. We don't need any refresh. After reload, okay, loaded. Let's check the 82. Yes, it is saved. Let's change it. Let's reload. Okay, once we reload, it's not getting reloaded. Maybe it is related to context because when we do reload, maybe it is not clearing the local. So load it. Okay, they are loaded. Change something. Reload. No, not changing. So let's see. Must be related to TBS students local. So I need to, yeah, I think, refresh local of items context. So how do I gonna change the local? And it has only get. Okay, there is clear. Yes, clear the local. Try again. See, now it is gone permanently. I think I know the reason. Probably I can do a new school context each time when I click load. We work because this will reinitialize the context each time I do a load and all the changes made will be removed. Okay, and okay, it is here. So let's reload. Yes, now working. Let's make another change and let's type my surname. First save it and then load. Okay, now working as expected. Okay, great. So how does it work? Let's see the queries that is being executed. Let's open the SQL profiler and I will open tuning. See? Okay, so when I load, let's see what happens. Here the query. So you see it's selecting top P0 parameter, which is 100 here, as you can see. and T unique ID, T is mail, and what is T? T is TBS students. You see, I can execute this exactly as here, and it should work. Yes. So let's see how does it save. To save it, I will change the unique ID 43. Let's set it as Toros and save it. Okay, let's see the save command. This is select here. Here what has done. So let's see. So it has set no count on update TBS student set student name equal to P0 because we have only changed student name where unique ID is P1. So it is expecting a unique ID to work if you are working with entity framework. It may also work on tables where you don't have unique ID, but then you cannot bind it as a source. Okay, if you want to bind it as a source, then you have to have a unique ID, otherwise it doesn't work. And here you see P1 is equal to integer value as 33 because it is the var and this is Toros. So let's change multiple values and see the update. For example, let's set this as Furkan Gözükara and Furkan.Gözükara@toros.edu.tr and nickname as CA Furkan. And I will even change my student ID because I am not bound to it. And when I save, you will see the query. Okay, now the query is expanded with other updated things like here. We can even update multiple columns. For example, let's set this something like this, multiple records. This here and here, whatever I want. I will just put some values, and when I save, let's see what happens. Okay, you see, so it is executing an extended storage procedure. Storage procedures are other thing related to database. It's providing the parameters of storage procedure as this, and they are all getting updated. Okay, this week I will end it here, and next week I will show some more queries related to entity framework. So, okay, in .NET Core, how to bind a data grid to the and save changes made in data grid database. Because we have seen such an advanced topics, I know that they are hard to grasp and understand at first, but I am sure you will understand everything as you watch, maybe 2 times, maybe 3 times. When you encounter a problem, don't give up, try to solve it. Okay, there should be a way to solve your problem. You can't just give up and say, I am not able to do it to your employer, right? When your employer requests something from you, you have to do that request, solve your problem. This will differentiate you from other programmers. You are a software engineer, therefore you have to be able to solve problems better. You have to do a better coding. By the way, when we do entity framework updates, deletes, insert or select, they are all SQL injection guarded. Okay, when you use entity framework, it is not possible to do SQL injection. Therefore, you are safe because as we have seen with Profiler, it is running parameterized queries with storage procedure execution. Okay, you see these are all parameterized queries. All right, end of lecture. Hopefully see you next week.